Welcome to Feminine Roadmap Podcast. I'm your host, Gina Farrar. Each week, I bring you an inspiring conversation to help you navigate the challenges and changes of midlife so that you can not only survive, but thrive in your second half. Hello, Feminine Roadmappers. It is Gina here, and today we are going to be talking about all things women's health. We're going to be talking about menopause, perimenopause, hormonal swings, health, and wellness. Today, I have Dr. Vicki-mondloch. She is an OB/GYN and an integrative medicine doctor. It is her personal mission to empower women to be their best, to be their healthiest, and to be forever age 45. So without further ado, I want to thank you, Dr. Vicki, for being a part of my program today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
So why don't you go ahead and just kick it off and let us know what led you on this journey of going about medicine the way that you do?
Well, medicine wasn't really my initial passion. I thought initially that I was going to go to college. I had all salespeople in my family, so nobody was medical. Medicine wasn't even an option. And I was going to study foreign languages. So I got to college and realized I couldn't fit foreign languages in with my backup science, and because you can always get a job in science, right? And so I couldn't fit them both in. And I thought, well, I can always pick up the languages as we go. I'm really good at languages. So I'll just start with the sciences because they have long labs that you have to fit in. And the more I got into science, the more I liked it. So when I finished college, I applied to medical school like most people do, and I didn't get in. And I thought, wow, how come I didn't get in? That's really weird. I've got this great grade point, whatever. Well, you don't realize the politics that go into getting into medical school. So I actually did research for 3 years, worked in a research lab, and after 3 years, the head of the lab actually asked me what my long-term game plan was, and I said I'd like to go to medical school. And he said, have you ever done early admission? Have you ever looked at? And he gave me some hints. And I thought, well, I could do that. So I went ahead and I did what his recommendation was. And about 3 months later, he came and sat down and had lunch with us. And he never did that. So when he sat down, everybody's on best behavior, and he looked at me and he said, have you seen your mail lately? And I said, why do you ask? He just smiled and he said, you'll see. And he got up and he walked away. And I thought, well, that was really odd. So when I got home, here was this letter of admission to medical school. And I thought, oh my goodness gracious. Well, I said something else, but it was like, wow. So that's how the game is played, is what I learned. So fast forward, I get into medical school and I want a residency in OB/GYN. Well, I don't realize there's politics that go into that as well. So once I don't get my residency, but I do a year of internal medicine, which was invaluable. It taught me how to look at the whole person from head to toe. Then I got my OB/GYN residency. So when I finished with my residency and started in my job, I was that busy OB/GYN that was delivering more babies than anybody else in our hospital system. And I was doing it without doing episiotomies, and I was doing it a more natural way with perineal massage and hot oil, and very, very midwife-like is how I delivered my babies. And then I was doing a lot of surgery, and I was just this busy person. And all of a sudden one day, and I write this story in my book, Full Bloom, I wake up and I can't open my eyes. My face is on fire. And I'm putting ice packs on my face and trying to figure out, my gosh, I didn't have any alcohol. This is the middle of the week. I've got to be in the operating room. I've got to be able to see what is going on. And I have rosacea, which is a skin condition where you're having more blood supply per square inch on your face. And my swinging hormones caused my skin to just go crazy. And it literally was beet red, like somebody took a red magic marker, and swollen. And I'm in the operating room putting ice packs between patients, trying to get my eyes so I can open them so I can see what I'm doing. And I get to the office and I marched right into my office manager's office. And I said, "This is what happened to me this morning." And she sat back with her arms crossed and she went, "If you, as the OBGYN, can't tell what's happening to your body, how can you expect your patients to know what's happening to them?" And it was, light bulb moment. Aha, oh my goodness gracious, she's right. So it started me on this journey of wellness. And I became the president of our 8-physician group. And now I'm 16 years in practice, okay? And I am at the top of my game, right? I mean, I just am busy beyond all belief. I've got 3 kids and a husband, and it's just, life is just going at 1,000 miles an hour. Well, I institute a lot of wellness practices into the office that I'm coming to realize back in 1995 that the rest of my group didn't want this. And how did I find that out? I walked in on one of my partners on the phone with one of my patients, telling her not to come in to the office for our wellness services. And when he hung up and he saw my face out of the corner of his eye, I said, "What are you doing?" And he crossed his arms and he goes, "Isn't it obvious?" I thought, oh my God. So I took that back to the rest of the 8-physician group, and all 7 of them looked at me, and I mean equal male, female, and they all crossed their arms and they said, "And your point?" And I thought, oh, okay, I get it. Nobody in this room wants wellness. So if I want wellness, even though I'm the president of the group, I need to walk. So I walked. I literally walked away from my job. I was doing very well in that job. I thought I would retire from that job and leave a legacy behind in women's health. And I realized I'm going to leave a legacy, but not there, and not with that group of physicians. So I walked away. My husband looked at me and said, "Well, now that you've made your point, what are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to do this on my own." So I literally started my journey back in 2002, going out on my own and realizing that we were in the midst of the Women's Health Initiative exploding on our doorstep. And what I mean by that is most women know that there was hormone research that was done, okay? And it was started in 1995. And the Women's Health Initiative was a really big study, 200,000 women. That's a lot of women. And it was across 20 or 30 major university centers in this country. And what the premise of that study was to say, women going into menopause are going to feel better going on hormone. Well, yes, but they blew how they set up the study. What they did is they did the right 3 premises. Let's prove that hormone can influence breast cancer, heart attack, and stroke. And let's prove that hormone can decrease the incidence of all 3. Well, the unfortunate part of how they got it set up is that they, as all studies do in this country, went to a pharmaceutical company, and it happened to be Wyeth, and the pharmaceutical company said, "We're all in. Oh my gosh, we are all over this because we make Premarin and Prempro." So for those of you who don't know what Premarin and Prempro is, Premarin is pregnant mare's urine. Pregnant horse pee. Come on, right? And Prempro is Premarin with a synthetic test tube progesterone. So called Provera, which by the way is still on the market, which by the way shouldn't be on the market. So they start this 10-year study in 1995, and the Europeans go, oh, us too. We want to do that study, but we can't get as many women together, so we're only going to look at breast cancer. And oh, by the way, we don't want to do Premarin and Prempro. We're going to do Estradiol and Progesterone, the human-based, the bioidentical. So fast forward 7 years into this 10-year study, the Americans sneak a peek at what the results are. How are the study results coming? And behind closed doors, they're really going, oh, shoot, poop. Well, they're saying worse things than that, but they're not seeing the results they want to see. So the press is at the door going, they're not saying good things in there. So the press got out its bullhorn and said, women, get off your hormone. They didn't understand to say get off your Premarin and Prempro, but at least they blew the whistle. So phones started going off the hook. Doc, what do I do? What do I do? Well, we call our American College of OBGYN, and everybody is caught flat-footed. So what does our American College tell us to say? Do your best. Excuse me? What? Do our best with what? With nothing? You're giving us nothing, right? So that's what we had, was nothing. So the Europeans looked at their preliminary results and said, well, we don't see that. So they finished the 10-year study, and guess what? They found a 0% incidence increase in breast cancer, where we found 8 new cases out of 10,000. We found an increase in breast cancer. Well, that just exploded on the airwaves. And all of a sudden it was women, get off your hormone of any kind. And hormone became the demon. And hormone became this awful cancer-causing, heart attack-causing, stroke-causing, don't even think about going on hormone. And the medical community just sucked it up because they had no other direction coming from anywhere. So I'm in the midst of all this, but standing on my own on the outside going, well, you know what's missing here is the science. There's no science behind women going through menopause. And we all say our hormone levels go away, but what are our numbers? In every other area of science, we have data. We check labs. If it's a blood pressure issue, we follow a blood pressure. And then we follow what it does to our kidneys and what it does to our vasculature. And we follow it scientifically. Where's the science behind following what happens to women in menopause? There was none. The science that they thought they had got discounted because it was horse pee and synthetic progesterone, and nobody wanted to invest any more money in doing something that might cause breast cancer or heart attack or stroke. So we literally just took that idea of menopause and put it on a shelf. And menopause became something that you were just going to have to get through. You're strong. You can do it. We know that you have enough in you that, just buck up. And, oh, by the way, and this is what really got me. By the way, I've done as much surgery on you as I can do, and you're not going to have babies anymore. So I don't need to see you anymore. And the American College actually changed the guidelines to say now we only need a pap smear every 3 years. What is that craziness, right? So now we're saying not only do we not get value out of you anymore because you're over age 50, but I don't even need to see you anymore. So you are being summarily dismissed. by the doctor that you've just spent 20 or 30 years of your female career with, having your babies, having your pap smears, talking about bad cramps, talking about what you can do for your daughters with their issues, and suddenly you're dismissed? Suddenly you're told you aren't important to me anymore because I can't make money off of you. So go away. Wow. So women had nowhere else to turn to except their internist. Well, an internist doesn't know anything about women's health. So they'll do your exam for you, but they ignore your pelvis like it's from Mars, and we're just not going to go there, right? Put a speculum in and do a pap smear? I don't think so. I think you can find somebody else that can do that for you. So women just weren't getting examined. They were having other issues happen. They were actually getting as much breast cancer because nobody talked to them about what hormones do when you quote unquote lose them, but do you really lose them? As we go further into this talk, I'll explain that we lose them, but not really. We just don't balance them, the ones that we have, but we still end up making unopposed estradiol. And where is it coming from? Our body fat. Oh my goodness. So if we have unopposed estrogen, which back in our 20s and 30s and 40s was responsible for endometriosis, heavy periods, polyps in our uterus, growing fibroids, growing ovarian cysts that would rupture. Why are we suddenly saying unopposed estrogen is just fine in menopause? Because nobody's checking levels.
Right.
Wow. So what an absolute travesty. Every other area of medicine is scientific, but women's health gets thrown out. The baby gets thrown out with the bathwater. Oh, that Women's Health Initiative was a bad study, therefore we just won't look at hormones. Well, no, wait a minute. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is we still deserve from our age 50 to however long we're going to live, 80's the new 60, 70's the new 50, 90's the new 70, unless you don't let me have hormone. What a lot of women are being sold a bill of goods is that if you spend that age 12 to age 50 with hormone, that's 38 years. We're likely going to live another 38 years from 50 to 88 without hormone. We're going to spend as many years without hormone as we did with hormone. Hormone is our lifeblood. Hormone is what keeps our body balanced. Hormone is the foundation of our health. Wait a minute. You're just going to look me straight in the eye and say, you're going to live 38 more years without hormone, but guess what? You're going to love it. Wow. Have we been lied to or what?
Yeah, because that lack of hormones makes women feel absolutely crazy. A
Not
lot of women
only
feel like they're losing their minds.
Right. Not only crazy, but in my book and in my everyday practice, I have a checklist of symptoms that I have women go through and check mark off that many of these symptoms are very female hormone specific, that they're more estradiol specific than progesterone specific, but they're also any hormone in our body. They could be thyroid hormone being off. It could be your cortisol and your adrenal being off. It can even represent some of your vitamin D and your insulin blood sugar being off, because the foundation of our health is not just female male hormone. It's one of the legs of what I call our hormone chair. So we have our male hormone balance is the first leg of our chair. The second leg of our chair is our thyroid. And it's not just that TSH that your doctor wants to check. It's all of your thyroid panel, your free T3, free T4, your antibodies to make sure you don't have autoimmune thyroid disease. Your third leg of your hormone chair is your cortisol, your adrenal. That's our stress hormone. Well, golly gee, who's got stress, right? Oh, goodness.
Oh, gee, I don't know. Maybe
I
that's
don't
why
know.
I started the podcast is because everybody I knew over the age of 45 was completely stressed, and that's why we're having this conversation.
Right. And the fourth leg of that chair is your blood sugar insulin. And people go, oh, insulin's not a hormone. Yes, it is. With vitamin D potentially being our fifth hormone. And so think of and imagine that four-legged chair that you now go through perimenopause, menopause, and you're sitting on that chair and that female-male hormone leg just got really shaky. What's going to happen is you're sitting on that chair, boom, over you go. And suddenly you realize you've just landed on the floor and you don't know how you got there. And you're asking for help and your doctor's going, oh, no, you made it to the other side. Good luck with that. Oh, by the way, you're going to have to find a new doctor. So not only are you landing on the floor, you don't know how you got there and you just lost your lifeline. Who in the heck else is there to help you? Well, I'm here to say it's me. I am the one who's going to help you. And I decided back in 2002 that I needed to be on this mission to empower women to be in charge of their health care, to be in charge of their life's balance, and to be forever age 45. We don't need to lose our hormone. We need to manage our hormone and balance it. The other analogy I want to leave with the chair is that think of it as well, that if you realize your hormones may be going and that leg of your chair is getting shaky, you're going to rearrange yourself differently on that chair, aren't you? And you're going to suddenly move to the more three solid legs on that chair. Well, let me share one more analogy with you. Think of that chair as the four corners of your house. And those of us who have built a house know that you pour a foundation in the ground for that house to fit on. And that foundation has to be balanced. That concrete has to be poured so that it's even. And the ground underneath it has to be solid so that as you build the house above it, you don't have one corner sinking in the ground, because what's going to happen? The house may look good from the ground up, but suddenly you get cracks in the kitchen wall. Suddenly the door doesn't close square. Suddenly the window doesn't come down and close, and now you're getting cracks in the window. So suddenly everything above the foundation has cracks in it. Well, that's our health. Why, if we know the foundation could be cracked or not balanced, why do we not address the imbalance in our foundation so we can correct the issues above? It's really pretty simple if you think about it. And your first question to me is going to be, but Dr. Vicki, how do we check those hormone levels? Like the Europeans did, who, by the way, finished their 10-year study and didn't find that increased incidence in breast cancer. And I'll go back to that story in a minute. So what were they doing? They were following blood levels. Wow, we all go get our blood work done anyway, correct? Yes. Does our insurance pay for it? Yes. So will our insurance pay for us getting our hormone levels checked? Yes, especially if the doctor codes it with a code that gives the insurance company a reason to pay for it. Wow, what a concept. So unless we know this, we don't even know to ask our doctors to get our blood levels checked. But they can easily be checked and covered by insurance. So then your next question to me is going to be, but then Dr. Vicki, if I need hormone, does that mean I have to pay for that out of pocket? Does that mean it's not going to be covered by my insurance? No, guess what? If they're going to pay for your blood work and you have a diagnosis that covered your blood work, you also have a diagnosis that's going to cover your hormone replacement. What a concept. All of this, just like the rest of your healthcare, is covered lock, stock, and barrel by your insurance. What an amazing concept. It's still the foundation of your health. It's still your health. Your health is still going to be covered by your health insurance. It's a crazy concept, but it's the same concept as any other part of your health. Amazing, isn't it?
Now, why is it because of that health initiative that they just kind of got scared off and decided to not touch it because it was too hot of a topic? Is it because they didn't have the answers to it?
Part of it, and let me take it to the next steps that it took to get to where we are today. So the shock of what happened was so much of a shock. Nobody anticipated that answer. So nobody had anything prepared as a contingent, okay? So meanwhile, the Susan G. Komens and the National Cancer Society and everybody else out there who wanted to then push their cancer agenda sprang forward like they've been laying in wait and went, oh, we'll do all this research to go against breast cancer. And, if hormone is the culprit, then we will demonize hormone for you. We will make certain that hormone never crosses your pathway again. And medicine didn't have a counter for that. So it literally, that cancer mantra took over. Meanwhile, in Europe, don't you love that? Meanwhile, in Europe, not only did the Europeans finish their study, but they started a 10-year study to look at the other two parts that WHI looked at, the heart attack and stroke issues. And they said to the Americans, well, we didn't see a breast cancer increase. And the arrogant Americans went, well, you can't lecture us. You didn't do the heart attack and stroke study. So meanwhile, the Europeans were running their 10-year heart attack and stroke study. So in 2012, now we've gone from 2002 to 2012, that cancer has taken over in this country, okay? Meanwhile, what the Europeans publish out of Britain in 2012 is a study that shows that women given hormone, bioidentical hormone, have a decrease in heart attack, a decrease in stroke, and an increase in longevity taking bioidentical hormone. And now the Americans are going, oh, egg on face, oh dear, what do we do to counter this? So they did a study.
They demonized the bioidentical
They
hormone.
had already demonized it. So
even
now
Bioidentical went under, right? Because I remember when I was doing progesterone years ago, they made them put a label on every bottle that said you would get cancer using that
black box warning. Exactly. Okay. So now the Americans said, well, shoot, we either have to help refute this or figure out if they're right or if we're right. So they put together a KEEPS trial, and it's an early estrogen and progesterone intervention style where they actually looked at and compared Premarin versus the bioidentical, okay, in the American study. And they found some really surprising things. Like, guess what? The bioidentical is better for not only hot flashes and heart and bone health and cognition, whereas the Women's Health Initiative, which had the synthetic progesterone in it, had been bad or neutral for all of those things. So the end-all be-all on the cardiovascular and the stroke wasn't truly answered yet. So it took, are you ready? It took a cardiologist out of USC, Dr. Hovis, who in 2015 published a trial called the ELITE trial. ELITE is early versus late intervention trial with estradiol. That's what ELITE, E-L-I-T-E, stands for. And what he looked at was giving women early post-menopause, 3.5 years, and late post-menopause, 14.5 years. So basically age 55 and 65 women, estradiol, and what effect did that have on cardiovascular, which is heart attack and stroke? Guess what a cardiologist found? Are you ready?
Protected their heart?
Are you ready? Oh, it's even better than that. Are you ready? Hang on to your seat. Not only did they do their study, but they did a meta-analysis of other studies, and they lumped it all together. This is their conclusion. Ready? In women who had hormone given back to them before the age of 60 or less than 10 years from menopause, wait for it, they had a 32% reduction in coronary heart disease.
Wow.
And a 39% reduction in overall mortality, including cancer.
Wow.
That's phenomenal. There is nothing in medicine that gives 32 and 39% protection except these three things: food, water, and oxygen. And now it's hormone. Lifeblood. So what about those older women that he studied? Well, hang on to your hat for this one. You ready?
Yep.
If you are more than 10 years out from menopause or older than the age of 60, the effect of starting hormone is null, N-U-L-L, which means you don't continue to progress. You arrest your risk at where you are. Hormone allows you to arrest your risk and stabilize it.
So basically, if you didn't do the pre, right, and you kind of get on the train late, what it does is it halts the digression.
Right. It halts any progression of further cardiovascular or stroke risk. That's phenomenal. Even the Lipitor that everybody touts in Western medicine. Oh my gosh, somebody was even arrogant enough to say every woman, every man, woman, and adult should be on Lipitor over the age of 50 in this country. Well, wait a minute. Whoa. At what cost? Okay. At what side effect risk, right? And it doesn't even give the 32% protection that hormone affords even in the less than 60-year-old female. It doesn't even give that. It gives 25% for heart attack and stroke, but that's in conjunction with controlling blood pressure and this and this and this. So there's all these qualifiers for Lipitor, and it's only 25% when putting hormone back in our body right across the board gives every woman 32% protection. That's a no-brainer. That's a wow. Why didn't I do that? Why didn't my doctor tell me that? Well, that's my mission, is to make sure every woman in America knows this research, knows this information, is empowered by this information to go back to their healthcare provider and go, me too. I want this hormone too. I want to be balanced too. I want to be forever age 45 too. Me too. And why not?
Now, my question that comes from that is not all doctors are on board with this.
Very few doctors are on board with this.
Right. So what are the resources to a woman who wants to investigate this? Because I love integrative medicine, but for most people, it comes out of pocket. So it's cost prohibitive for a lot of women to just go straight to an integrative doctor. So how can they navigate the conversation to get the support that they need? Will the doctor give it to them even if they don't want to give it to them, or how does that work?
It depends on your doctor, and I'll just say that right off the get-go, okay? Because I've got a couple of solutions to that, okay? Number one is there's a section in the back of both of my books, and by the way, I'll just kind of do this right away for Full Bloom. Full Bloom, ladies, this is our book, 40, 50, 60, 70, and beyond. But there's a section in the back of the book that talks about how to approach your healthcare provider. How do you say to them what you need to get across? How do you ask to get your hormone levels checked? How do you know which hormone levels to ask to get checked? That's all listed in the book. It also lists for them, if your doctor won't do it, how do you contact me? And I will, depending upon where you are, fill out a lab slip for you. I will code it correctly. I will send it back to you so you take it to the lab that your insurance will cover in your territory, in your city, in your area. It will be coded so your insurance will pay for it. I will get the results, and then we can choose to either do, a one-on-one where I can go over those results with that patient, make sure they get those results. If they can find a practitioner in their locale that will go over them with them, then that may even be an MD like me, who they will then find who is out there. But I have a Skype practice, so I go coast to coast with my patients, and I balance many of my patients' hormones that I've never met face to face. So it is doable, and there are very few docs out there that will know how to do it. Therefore, I give you the blueprint in the book. But if even with the blueprint, even if they agree they'll draw the labs, they may not know how to interpret those labs. So in the book, I go through a lot of case studies, and I go through a lot of the science about what the hormone numbers mean and what they may mean to you. But to individualize it to you, you may need somebody else to help navigate that for you, because it's not just checking it once and you never check it again. Life happens, and we all go through different stressors, and you may end up on thyroid medication. You may end up with type 2 diabetes. You may end up with things that will impact what levels of hormone you may need to adjust as you go forward. But it's all manageable. And that's what I go through in the book. I empower you to recognize what's going on with you. I give you the tools to check off with what are your symptoms. I explain to you what those symptoms may look like. I explain diet. I explain your exercise. I explain how to talk to your doctor, and then give you the resources to be able to check in with your doctor, get your blood work done, and then if they won't do it, I'll do it for you.
That's an incredible service, because I know that I've talked to several doctors. I actually have an MD integrative medicine doctor that's locally here too, and she's so busy, and I'm sure you're so busy, because finding someone who will listen to what you're going through and actually give you a solution that isn't big pharma is so hard to find.
Exactly. And I'm in the process of trying to get together an institute where I'm training like-minded and willing healthcare providers who want to learn how to do this.
That's incredible.
So stay tuned. That's coming.
So would that be like a clinic, or not a clinic, but you have basically a virtual clinic, and then you would be mentoring other doctors.
Correct. Where they can do it in their locale. That's a concept.
Amazing.
Right. Because sad to hear this, but this is true. In my state of Wisconsin, we have 2 medical schools, one private, one public, University of Wisconsin-Madison and Medical College of Wisconsin. In neither of them do they teach hormone replacement.
So basically any student going through is not going to learn anything.
Correct. And I will share with you my personal experience in Waukesha, Wisconsin, which is a suburb of Milwaukee, okay, which is what a lot of people think is just a suburb of Chicago. But anyway, we are our own entity. What a lot of people think is that, oh my gosh, I can just go and get my hormone checked. I can go anywhere, but no, they can't. And for a metropolitan area of the Metro Milwaukee, which is a 1.5 or 2 million area, there are not even a handful of healthcare practitioners who are doing what I do.
Wow.
And it's crazy when you think about it. And it shouldn't be that hard. So when I tried to explain this to my patients, and my patients now go back to their other doctor and try to explain, I get hate mail back. What are you doing trying to fill my patient with all these stupid notions of, oh, wait a minute. No, this is called science. Have you looked at the blood work that I do? I do more than you do. And have you noticed what I'm doing as I balance hormones across a person's, whole health spectrum? And it's pretty crazy when you realize that your own profession is dismissing even the science behind what I'm doing with women's health. So I fully intend to have a paradigm shift in women's health. And I want not only other healthcare practitioners to learn what I'm doing to do it for women across the country, but until we get there, I will take that mantle on. I will help anyone interested to balance their hormones if they cannot find what they're looking for in their locale.
Which there's a really good chance that they won't be able to find it. It is interesting, though, depending on where you live, you might have more options.
Absolutely. And so go online and be very wary as you see hormone balancing, because all they may want to do is stick pellets in your butt. And sorry, we weren't born with pellets in our butt. So
So don't put them there.
So why would you put them there?
It's a funny thought. So basically, when we're talking about hormone balance, when you talk about your natural products, are there specific lines that you can say, okay, this progesterone is pure, and these herbs or these things, you help people get on what I would call regimens or routines to support their hormonal system?
Right. Well, and I want to be really, really clear for everybody out there hearing this talk to this point. They're going, well, that all sounds well and good, but I don't have the extra monetary to cash out for something compounded and made for me. And yes, that is the purest way of doing it, is a compounded product where a pharmacist who is a trained pharmacist may be just a compounding pharmacist, but they may also be a retail pharmacist where they're doing both in their pharmacy. And remember, go back to that story that I told about the original research between WHI, the American research, and the Europeans. The Europeans were doing bioidentical hormone with their patient population using pharmaceutical estradiol and prometrium. Now, I specifically use the word pharmaceutical because it is made by a pharmaceutical company, but the formulas are the same bioidentical hormone that our ovaries make. Now, doesn't that sound like an oxymoron? It does, doesn't it? Pharmaceutically made, yet bioidentical estradiol and progesterone. So can those pharmaceutical estradiol and progesterone, which by the way are both generic, both still the same formula that our ovary makes, does our insurance cover those pharmaceuticals? Yes.
Do they?
Yes. 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 Isn't that amazing? So you are not held back because of your pocketbook or your life circumstances. You can have your insurance cover your bioidentical hormone. Wow.
Wow.
Now it's the same as everything else out there that we need and covered. So now we finally have women's health covered under our insurance. Now, if we can get the doctors and the healthcare providers on board, what a concept.
So how do you get to that point? You said it was Prometrium and Estradiol?
Or the generic for Prometrium, which is called Progesterone.
Yeah.
Wow. Imagine that, right? So those scripts, if your doctor will write them, great. If they won't write them, again, I offer to not only review your labs with you, but if I write your scripts, I have to be taking ownership of your healthcare. Then I would have to be balancing. So that you would become a patient of mine in my Skype practice. But I have the ability to write and script coast to coast. So I can do it through my computer and send it to your local pharmacy where your insurance is going to cover your prescriptions.
That's amazing.
Or even your mail order. I can do that all through my computer. So this is all doable. It's all manageable. And it all can be done under your insurance.
And that's the thing that most people don't know, right?
Right.
It feels like you can't use your insurance to get healthy on that level.
Right. Now, if people prefer to do a compounded estradiol or progesterone, they can choose to do that. For instance, if they want a topical versus an oral, or if they want a troche, which is something that will go under their tongue, or if they want a liquid, those are all things that are not pharmaceutical or not as available pharmaceutical. There are some offerings, but not many. That in those cases, a topical is available and compounded. But even in the pharmaceutical world, for high-risk patients that are told they can't take an oral estradiol because of a blood clot risk, like they have varicose veins or they have high blood pressure or they've had a prior TIA, which is a mini stroke, it doesn't preclude you from ever being able to take hormone. It means we decrease and mitigate your risk by having you take your estradiol topically. Because topically you have much less risk, and it really erases that risk for most patients if they have a risk of blood clot or TIA or whatever by using a topical patch, which can be covered by insurance, or by doing a compounded topical. So there are many versions of bioidentical hormone. Some are pharmaceutical, and pharmaceutical isn't all bad as long as it's the bioidentical estradiol and the bioidentical progesterone. No substitute that is patentable by some other insurance name like Provera. That is not the same. Birth control pills are not the same. So there are things that we have to be wary of, that if your doc says, well, I'll put you on hormone, bioidentical hormone as estradiol and as progesterone is what you're looking for.
So I'm curious about the way that we as women have been educated, and the conversation that we're having feels very contrary to what we're hearing. And I'm on your side because I've had the benefit of women and doctors coming along and sharing their education with me. So how do we soothe the mind of those who are just so afraid of the backlash from that particular study?
In particular, what I tell my patients are, let's at least do your levels and let's find out where you are, number one. So I'll even take the case of a patient who, and this is a true case that's in my book, so I'll talk about this case, and she knows she's in the book. Patient who has a family history of breast cancer when her mom went menopausal at age 52, okay? She is now approaching that age, and her hormone swings are doing what we call the dance. They're doing the up, down, crazy up, down. And she is having hormone swings that are even more extreme than what I show on the graph as typical. So she'll swing from a 5th percentile up to a 300th percentile, back down to a 5th percentile. And so her swings are like schizophrenia. I mean, they're horrible, right? So knowing she has this family history of breast cancer, we're following mammograms, and whenever she would swing high and have a mammogram, it would show fibrocystic change, heterozygous, dense. Oh my gosh, we need an extra compression of this and that and the other. So we, continued to check her levels, but we got her through. She started getting irregular. Then she had this, what we call the last hurrah, which is that last kind of spike that your ovaries do before they throw in the towel. And so we call that the last hurrah. And that typically in most patients is a 2 to 4 month event where you shoot your hormone up to like super high levels. And we just have to get you through it. And we have to match with as much progesterone as the estradiol that you're making to balance that last hurrah and then get you through it. Okay. Well, this patient hits her last hurrah. And I'll throw numbers out just for a second, just to give you an idea of the magnitude. When you are in your menstrual career, the 100th percentile for estradiol is a level of 300. Okay. So as you're doing your bell curve down and you're in your late 40s, but you're doing the swing, that last hurrah happens, and most women only go up to about 150 for their estradiol. They swing that high for that 2 to 4 months, and then they come down. Well, she goes into her last hurrah, and her numbers swing up to the 800 and 900 range. Right. That's exactly what I did. What?
That sounds scary.
Yes. And she comes in happy as a clam. And I looked at her and I said, oh, no. I cannot leave you here. And I can't get enough progesterone in you to counter this. So I've got to knock this down, or you're going to be at the same breast cancer risk that your mom was. Mm-hmm. And she looked at me and she said, well, how do we do that? I said, well, we either throw this much progesterone at you to balance it, or
here, just bathe in this for 4 months.
Right. Just keep swallowing this stuff. All right. And swather it all over you. Or if we can't get enough in you, I've got to knock it down. And the only way to knock it down is with the breast cancer medication tamoxifen, which is like counterintuitive, right?
Right.
So I couldn't get enough progesterone in her. And I said, okay, I've got to use the tamoxifen. I'm really, really sorry. Now, this is an extreme. Realize this is an extreme patient, okay? So we put her on tamoxifen, and I said, I have to follow your levels every 6 to 8 weeks. So she comes back in, and her levels are still at 800. And I looked at her and I said, you're not taking your medication, are you? She goes, oh, I didn't like it. I said, well, what didn't you like about it? Well, I started getting some hot flashes. I said, well, you have a choice. You can either go through some hot flashes for a couple of weeks, or you can get breast cancer. Which one do you want? And it kind of brought the point home. And she went, oh, you really mean that, don't you? I said, yeah, I mean that. So put her on the tamoxifen, knocked her levels down, and we would periodically take her off to see how she would do and what her levels would do on their own. Now, remember I said a normal patient will stay there for 2 to 4 months and then be through and be done. Guess how long her last hurrah lasted?
Was it 8 to 12 months?
16 months.
Oh.
What do you bet? Her mom went through the same thing. And if we wouldn't have knocked her down, she'd have had breast cancer, and we would have all gone, oh, too bad, so sad. If only we would have known. But we did know. We did know. And we were able to mitigate her risk. She is now past that last hurrah on hormone that we only manage every 6 months, like every other patient. And she has normal mammograms, and her risk is the same as anybody else now.
Wow. That's incredible. And I think that's the key to what you're saying is every body is different. I know we're supposed to be a thumbprint of our mothers, right? There's a mirror effect from us to our mothers. Now, for someone like me, my mom had a hysterectomy at 20.
Mm-hmm. And did they take her ovaries or did they leave them?
Everything.
So she was menopausal from age
Instantly.
20. And did they give her hormone? I bet not.
I don't think so. You know what? No. I think she did take it, but then that study happened.
And they took her off.
Yeah. Instantly.
Right. And it's crazy how women's health, because of one study and being arrogant enough to not recognize that the European research is good research.
Yeah.
And to not even pay attention to our own American cardiologist who told us the cardiovascular benefits. But today, no hormone research is being done. Can I say that again? No hormone research is being done because nobody wants the bad press of we're doing research about giving our moms and our grandmothers breast cancer, heart attack, and stroke. That mantra in the medical schools and throughout medicine is so strong and anti-hormone that they will not recognize the European research or even some of our own American research. And that's why I'm here to empower every woman with the truth.
That's why I keep having these conversations. I think you're the third doctor over the course of 2 years that I've talked to. And getting that, you know how when you hear something and then you have to hear it again and you have to hear it again. My goal for my listeners is to give them that empowerment. That's why I said I wanted you on my show, because that's what it's really about. It's really about getting back to that place where this is my body. Mm-hmm. And if I have to fight a little bit to get what's going to get me healthy, then we need to have that voice. We need to have that power, because ultimately, even our men are not getting the hormone health support that they need.
Right.
So it's absolutely kind of across the board kind of mom conversation. You either do this, whatever you said, Lipitor or whatever it is, or we don't do anything for you. And I don't agree with that, because we're currently still living in a free country. I currently still have control over my own body. And to have the information gives me the ability to make better decisions for myself and my daughters, because you and I both have daughters, right? We want to guide them to better health.
Absolutely. And I couldn't have said that any better.
It's very frustrating. I'm just going to put it out there, because I don't like, this is just my personality, I don't like being told what I can and can't do with my own body.
Who does? Right?
I don't know. I know people that if a doctor says, take this blue pill, do this thing, don't do that, they won't question. And I don't want to be critical of those who don't question, but I do want people to think about questioning, because who knows you better than you? Who is in your skin, feeling the things you're feeling and noticing the changes and being disrupted? We are.
Absolutely. And I'm going to give you one quick kind of scenario that most people never really tumble to. I had a patient who walked in the door, referred by her male boss. Now, isn't that an interesting scenario, right?
Yes.
So, because he's a patient of mine, and he recognized that she may benefit from what I could do for her. So he sent her in. And she looked at me and I said, what can I do for you? And she said, I'm not really sure. My boss sent me in here. And I said, okay, we went through her checklist and she had a number of things mentioned. And some of the things that she mentioned more strongly were cognition, short-term memory loss, forgetfulness, poor concentration. And I said, this is number one for you. What's going on? And she was relaying scenarios of being in a meeting with her boss and that she couldn't remember from 5 minutes ago what had been said unless she looked at her meeting agenda. And she couldn't remember what the plan was moving forward if it happened 5 minutes ago, unless she was taking notes. And she said, this has never happened to me. What is going on with me? Is this early Alzheimer's? And I said, no, this is menopause. This is lack of hormone. And what do you, no, hormone's only about hot flashes. No. Hormone is about every part of your body. And this is your brain screaming at you, where's my estradiol? So we started putting her on hormone. And what she started to notice is that she could pay attention better in meetings. And she said, about 6 months into this, she said to me, I have to share a story with you about my best friend. Oh, okay. She said, my best friend was going through the same thing I'm going through, but this is really helping me, and I'm getting better organized at work, and I'm remembering things on the agenda and whatever. She said, but my friend, they told her, you're forgetting key pieces of your job. We're promoting your underling who's 29, and you're going to train this 29-year-old to do your job, and you're being demoted back to her job. Like it or leave it. Well, wait a minute. This is losing your job because you're losing your hormone? Wait a minute. That's a very real, very tangible loss of self-esteem, loss of paycheck, loss of you name it.
Identity, yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious. You have just been summarily swatted and dismissed by your boss. How do you ever come back from that? And how many women out there are finding themselves in potentially a similar situation, or they get really emotional in a meeting over a topic because their progesterone has tanked and they don't have enough progesterone in their system, and all of a sudden they're labeled unreliable. And you're too emotional for this job. We're going to put a guy in this place. You step back, and oh, by the way, since you step back, you're not performing well at this job, so you're fired for poor job performance. Well, translation, you went into menopause, you lost your hormone, and you're fired because your brain isn't functioning as well anymore. What is wrong with this picture? A lot. And we're not calling it what it is. We are not calling it menopause and lack of hormone with a medical treatment that is available, which is put hormone back in. We are saying, oh, it's just menopause. Oh, it's too bad, so sad. You lose your mind when you go through that stage. Too bad. What wrong? Absolutely wrong. We are mothers. We are grandmothers. We are caregivers. We caregive the world. We would caregive our next door neighbor and give them dinner if we had to, and forego dinner for us. That's the kind of people women are. Yet we get demoted from our job because we don't have the proper hormone mix in us, because medicine isn't addressing our needs. I don't accept that as a viable answer. I don't.
It's incredible that, and hopeful that there's actually a solution. And so as we kind of wrap up this really important conversation, and we'll have to talk about whether or not another conversation may need to happen, but what are, just kind of distill down, kind of get someone a starting point. What 3 things do you really want them to understand to either maintain their journey, start their journey, kind of get them to the place where we've listened to all of this information? It's life-giving information. But let's distill down 3 things that you really want them to really focus on to start.
If you notice yourself that you are seeing changes, not just in hot flashes or cognition, if you're noticing changes that the things you used to do don't work anymore, you're packing on abdominal weight, and I'm still exercising, I'm still eating, I'm eating better than I used to eat, and I'm gaining 10, 15, 20 pounds. What is wrong with this picture? Hormone. What if your cognition is changing? What if you walk into a room and you forgot what you walked into that room for? Well, it's the butt of jokes, but when it keeps happening over and over and over again, and your car keys are not where you put them, and you find them 3 hours later, That's a change. Hormone. So if you're noticing, number one, things are different and you're not able to control what you used to be able to control, think hormone imbalance. That's number one. Number two, if you think hormone imbalance, get your levels checked. And if that means talking to your doctor and they won't do it, if it means talking to me and see if I'll do it for you, which of course I will, but realize, and I'll say it again, in Full Bloom, there is the checklist of not only symptoms, but how to talk to your doctor. Full Bloom is available on my website, how to get to Amazon, but it is also on Amazon. So please feel free for $20. It's a great resource to give you the courage and the knowledge to be able to say, here's my game plan, or as my daughter calls it, here's my war plan going forward. Okay? Because really what I'm doing is empowering you with the tools to be able to set up your future and your health going forward. And that's the third thing, is I want you to realize that this isn't a just today fix. This is a fix for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, for the rest of your life, to be forever age 45. What is wrong with that? Nothing. Nothing.
And it's all possible because it's the way our bodies are designed. We're
Right.
basically we're resetting to design is what we're doing.
Right. Think about the fact that in 1912, our average lifespan was 48 and a half years old.
Wow.
We hit menopause and we died. So menopause has only been around for 100 years. Imagine that thought.
That's crazy.
And we have made tremendous advances with antibiotics, with safe surgery and anesthesia, with doing catheterizations of every organ system out there, but we can't tackle hormones going away and replacing them? That's almost sounding like Women's Health 101. Wait a minute. We simply did the wrong study in the first place. Get over it. Admit you did the wrong study. Move on. Yes, has medicine hurt a number of women in this country? Yes. But can we recover from that? Yes. And we don't have to be another victim of that. We can take charge and be large and in charge like we always have been. We are woman. Hear us roar.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Vicki, for sharing your passion, your message, and offering your services to women that are genuinely frustrated and hurting because they cannot get the support that they need just to get back to normal. This does not have to be the normal. Am I right?
Absolutely. You can be you again. What a concept.
What a joy. You know what? I love that. You can be you again. That is a quote. Take that to the bank because I know that will bring tears to the eyes of some women that are listening to this, because this really is such a challenging season of life for a lot of women when they struggle. So I want to thank you so much, Dr. Vicki, for being with me today, for sharing your mission, for being such a light in such a difficult and dark season for a lot of women. Like, it's really a lot of hopelessness that women feel that I meet. So I want to thank you for stepping in and holding a space and filling the gap with your knowledge and your wisdom and your experience. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Today I've been talking with dr-vicki-mondloch. She is an OBGYN and an integrative medicine doctor, and she is the author of a women's series. She has Blossoming for adolescents, and she has Full Bloom for menopausal and perimenopausal women. So if you head on over to www.feminineroadmap.com/episode 135, you are going to find those links that Dr. Vicki talked about. I'm going to make sure that you're going to be able to get to her very quickly, very simply. So head to the show notes and the resources, click over to Dr. Vicki. Connect with Dr. Vicki. Find out what you need to know to get your life back to balance so that you can live a life that's so much less confusing. You do have the ability to take control of your health, my friends. And so please take advantage of Dr. Vicki's offer and her book and find a way to get back to your best, your healthiest, and maintaining being forever 45. So again, my friends, thank you so much for listening today. And while you're at my website, please leave your name and email address. Become a part of my tribe so you don't miss any of these amazing conversations. And again, thank you for giving us your time, your energy, your hour. And we do hope that these conversations change your life. Again, thank you for joining us today. And we look forward to sharing another life-changing conversation with you next week. Take care, my friends. Have a great week. Bye-bye.